Okay. If I'm not mistaken, we're live.
Yeah.
I need a little key card for this logo and whatnot, and then
Cute key card.
this is the first and only Sunday mornings with, is it Isaac and Sam?
I prefer Sam and Isaac because you're Sam.
Well, and not only that, but in the picture, perfect timing for the
Oh my gosh, it was
perfect.
meant to be.
It's also, I'm on the left and you're on the right, so whenever you read it, it says Isaac and Sam. But I like that. I think people, if they see
It's
it,
edgy. It's
yeah,
different.
it's
Trying to mix it up.
anyway.
Cool.
I
So we're
don't.
keeping Isaac and Sam, folks.
I've never done like this type of like podcast where it's like talk radio, but it's kind of down that aisle to some degree.
Cool.
We're talking about church, and I'm leading this train, which is really awkward for me.
No.
Not awkward, but just new for me.
Right. Well, I mean, you're like just an awkward person in general.
Well,
So you've got a lot going against you, but
But it can't get any worse,
Yeah.
right? Crack this water,
crack it.
drink that water. Switch into auto switch. Check mic. We are on me. So today we're talking about church misconceptions. We're talking about that second thing I was going to talk about, and then
we are.
Kanye's album.
Love that second thing.
What's the second thing?
I don't know.
Does it ring any bells whenever I say the future?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. Yeah. We're going to talk about the future. The future of the church. So first things first, let's talk about future of the church. I don't think that like we should dive into church misconceptions.
Gotcha. So second thing first.
Yes.
I like it.
Yes. Do you have a Bible or anything too?
Just on my phone.
Okay, cool.
I'm all about that e-Bible.
Because I feel like if people are listening in on this, then we have to be like, if we're going to state any statistics,
You have to support it.
you gotta
Like
show
Adam ruins everything.
Yeah.
What we could do is we could just say it and then plug a little shingle hangs down and cites the scripture for us.
Yeah, but as
I'm
you
just
stated
kidding.
earlier, I am the sole producer of it right now.
It's true.
Part-time working here is our Roland VR1 HD. Shout out to Roland for sending
Shout out
this
Roland.
to me full price.
Yeah. Can't beat that full price. Get what you pay for.
Exactly.
Right? Full price.
But the future of the church, where is it going?
So when you say the church, what do you mean?
I guess back to the church So let's define the church. What is the church to you? What is the church to me? What is the church to everybody else? And let's try to avoid something. Often I find myself in small groups, and it tends to go into, other people think that it's this. Like, they think that they should do this, and they do those, those people that do that thing, like those people who don't go to church except for on, like, Christmas and Easter, and those people, You follow what I'm saying?
Yes. Don't be talking about those people. Don't be
Yes.
throwing shade. I'm about that. So when you say the future of the church, I think you could say like the future of just organized religion in general.
No, just what is the church? Because I'll just throw mine out there.
Yeah.
The church for me is just is those who believe that Jesus is equals salvation. And yeah, like, I don't know. I guess that's why we're here to find out what you think and what I think. But I guess people who are gathering to like read or like to figure out what our purpose is.
Yeah.
Who have a common belief that there is a God and there is an answer.
Yeah.
That has been granted to us on earth. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I'm trying to like expand it as much as I can because I think it's more than. Go ahead.
Yeah. The way I see it is you have the gospel. To me, what you're describing is like the gospel of Jesus Christ, which are just his teachings. Right?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, John.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the things that Paul taught, just pretty much like what is the things that Christ taught that, are meant to make us happier in this life and, bless us in the life to come. That's the idea. Right?
Yeah.
And so and there are a lot of different churches that have embraced Christ's gospel, albeit in different ways.
Yeah.
Right?
But we got them Baptist, we got them Presbyterian, we got them Methodist, we got them boys down there, the Catholics. You got
Lutherans.
the
really, you can
Lutherans.
really break it off into three main people or categories. There's the Catholic faith, right?
Yes.
And then there's the
Universal.
they're like the first one, I guess, organized after Christ's ministry. Then you have all the Protestant faiths. That includes Lutheran, Methodist, Baptist, etc. Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were going to include the Church of Latter-day Saints.
No, actually, because that's what makes it kind of interesting, because the Protestant faith, in the name, like protest, right? They're all derivative of the Catholic Church in some way, shape, or form, as far as I understand it. Like the Lutheran Church, Martin Luther leaving the Catholic faith.
Sure.
Right? The people that they're like breaking away.
John
from
Baptist.
Yeah.
Doing. I don't know how the Baptist started.
John Baptist.
John the Baptist. Yeah.
Last
Wait
name
a
was
second.
Baptist.
He's written about in the gospel. Okay.
Yeah. And then the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is, and this isn't the only Christian faith like this, but it's one that the belief is that it was restored like outside of, it didn't like break away from another church. It was just a direct, I guess, organization straight from God.
Yeah.
But anyway, but I think that's how you have the Catholics, the Protestants, and then I guess you'd call the third category, I guess.
Sure. So you have like great. Now that takes our viewership and cuts it in half because you brought up the Church of Latter-day Saints.
Great. Yeah.
Like where you're.
X. Yeah.
I've always looked at them
Close.
as like the elves in The Lord of the Rings.
Please continue.
Yeah. Because I think the elves, I could go into a little bit more depth, but I've always thought of the Baptists as the dwarves.
Okay.
I've thought of the Methodists, I think, as the humans.
Mm-hmm.
And I've thought of, who else do you have? It's like the hobbits, as
This is good. No, keep going.
I haven't thought this far into it.
Well, why the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints? Why do you think they're like the elves?
The
Because
elves.
they're all beautiful.
Yeah, they're all beautiful people. They usually have long hair
Yep, they live forever.
and they live forever.
Exhibit A, born in 1706.
But no, what I see is kind of like when I say like the church, I think it's like I think that once you step into the presence, and this is also I wish I would have done more research on what Paul said the church was, because I guess Jesus coined the term church, right? The rabbis had
Sure.
temples in the Old Testament and
Yeah.
in the New Testament. And if you're listening, feel free to like tell us we're wrong.
Yeah, we will be a lot, all the time.
But what I was saying though is that I think once you come in quarters with somebody who wants to discuss where we came from, welcome to the church. You know what I mean? Like if it's more than one person.
So you're treating the church as just like generally anyone who accepts Jesus Christ as their savior, kind of thing. Like anyone who is a Christian, basically, like the church, like the future of the Christian belief. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
I'm trying. So to define like what it is, I'm trying to define what it isn't.
Because to me,
So
when
who's
you
it
talk to
exclude?
me,
Yeah.
also, I guess to make this clear, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Bum bum bum.
No, dun dun dun. Known to the layman as Mormon, right?
And I'm not a church.
And-
I'm not a part of any church actually.
Right.
So this is actually the dynamic here is interesting.
It's beautiful. That's what it is.
I concur.
Almost
Concur means
beautiful
agree,
as enough.
right?
That does. Yep.
It sounds so negative with that con.
Concur.
Concur.
Procur.
But-
Anyway, but you would say you're a Christian, and
Yeah.
yeah, you believe in Jesus Christ. right?
Sure.
So there you go. Anyway, so when you talk
The
to
worst Christian ever to say like you believe in Jesus Christ. Sure.
me, I guess.
Yeah. we're down to 25% viewership.
You know what? The people who remain, they're gonna get a treat of us, I guess.
You're gonna get a treat.
Nah, man. Anyway, so when you talk to any member of the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and you say the church, that word, that vernacular is immediately associated with like our church. Like whenever you're talking to other people, members of the LDS church, you're like, oh, the church does this or the church says that.
Mm-hmm.
And that always assumes, okay, it's just like our church, our faith.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
You know, so when you say like the church, right? I'm like, I don't think he's talking about that church.
Yeah.
And I think in a broader scale, when someone says like the future of the church, I think of it as the future of, I guess, Christianity in general and the belief in Christ, and not just a belief, because there's, you know, statistically, don't have exact numbers, hang it up. The less and less people are believing in Christ
Yes.
at all, right?
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous because it's pretty clear that he at least existed, right? But then a huge number of those people that still believe that Christ existed,
Sure.
they don't believe that he was divine. They believe he was just a man, just
Yeah.
a person, right?
Yeah.
Great teacher,
Several
influenced
historians.
a lot of people.
A lot of historians. I don't know the number. I'm not going to embarrass myself, but I know that that a majority of historians do say, yeah, homie was alive on this earth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we have record, right? You have the Bible is just a list of witnesses. Like, yeah, he was real. He was here, right? And then as far as whether or not he was divine, that is where a lot of people.
Well, here's another thing: is like if you don't believe, if you believe in Caesar and you don't believe in Jesus Christ, then they have the same accounts,
mm-hmm.
right? They have the same. I don't know. This is we'll get on a historian on and we could talk to him, but I don't know anything. I don't know I know some. I don't know much whenever it comes to the history.
Mm.
But as far as what you're saying is that there's two meanings of the word the church for you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm trying to wrap my head around that because I think that there's only one. I think that whenever you refer to the church, then it's like those who are part of the ministry, those what it excludes is
mm-hmm.
those people who don't want to talk about, who are not seeking.
Yeah. So you say when you say the church, you mean like people who are like emissaries and followers of Christ? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, exactly. I mean, sure.
Okay.
If that means that they're seeking, like
seeking what? Searching for what?
Searching for God Himself, like truth.
Yeah.
I think and I said that to somebody not recently, but earlier this year, and they said, "Well, now you're starting to sound a little bit more like a Buddhist or like a philosopher, like searching for truth or Hinduist or
mm-hmm.
Hinduism or what have you." And like it's like it says that the truth will set you free.
Mm-hmm.
So unless you're taking into account that there's more than one meaning of truth,
mm-hmm.
like there's the Hindu truth, and then there's Christianity truth, and there's the Church of Latter-day Saints truth.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see how that gets really muddy water whenever you have two definitions. So whenever it comes to truth, it's like, okay, well, what is truth?
Mm-hmm.
I would say that the church are those who seek the truth.
Mm-hmm.
They could be doing it completely wrong,
okay.
and they're going totally the wrong direction, or they could be doing it the right, which would be considered truth. They could be pursuing, they could be trying to pursue truth, but in that journey, they're just, I shared this with somebody, is that it's really difficult to say some of the things without telling a story.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically truth. Like you can't convey truth without a story.
Right.
So what I'm saying there is that there are people who, seek truth, but they're going down the wrong path. Like that's a story.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a story of an individual who's going on a path, walking down the road, and they have their sights, what they believe is the truth. They are stepping in the direction that they believe is truth.
Yeah.
And yet, it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But to say it's wrong is like, no. Like, let's fill in the gaps of the story. A man who's walking on a path, and he believes he's walking towards the chalice of hope,
Mm-hmm.
the chalice filled with eternal life. And he's walking through the woods, and he's seeing nothing but darkness, but he's following the darkest route there is.
Mm-hmm.
But something inside him says that that way is where the truth is.
Yeah.
And then he trips over a log, smack down into some monkey feces.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Right.
Right? But,
Well, it's funny you say that because I have a story I can actually pitch at you that sounds a lot like in the Book of Mormon, which highly recommend.
yes.
There's a story in there which I was talking to you about yesterday. How like there are some stories that I really like, and this one I really like. The beginning of the Book of Mormon, which for our listeners is another testament of Jesus Christ. It's a religious sacred text about the Savior. Anyway, the Book of Mormon starts with this family. Lehi is the dad, and he has his sons. There's Laman, Lemuel, Nephi, and Sam. Those are his 4 sons. And he has his wife, and they have other kids along the way. But anyway, Lehi is the patriarch of the family. And the family lived in Jerusalem, and this was around the time of Zechariah or Jeremiah in the Old Testament, around that same like timeline. Anyway, Lehi.
Nobody at that time was a Christian.
Right.
Nobody believed in God.
Arguably, yeah, around the time, a lot of people were rejecting the prophets, right? They were rejecting, God's servants. Christianity, how we know it now, didn't exist because it's before Christ's time.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like God's chosen people, his teachings, his covenants for that time period were being rejected, right?
Sure.
Because they had taken Jeremiah, the prophet, thrown him in prison, right? Anyway, Lehi, as he had left Jerusalem with his family, because the Lord told him, first he said, like, Jerusalem's going to be destroyed,
mm-hmm.
right? Which it did by, King Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians, right? He's like, so you and your family got to split. And so Lehi said, okay, we're out of here. And the next main part of the Book of Mormon talks about their journey through the wilderness as they leave Jerusalem and find their way to the Promised Land, which is the Americas in this book. But anyway, he has this dream.
But it wouldn't be America next. It would be like, where do they go? Egypt? Where do they go? Like,
so we don't. Well, no. I mean, this is not to get too much into the weeds, but it's actually really cool how the Book of Mormon teaches that they traveled for like 8 years, but they didn't. That's funny. Or the interesting thing is they went 8 years, but it wasn't like a constant journey. They would stop along the way because their family kept growing. They had children and they kept bigger and bigger, and eventually they made it to the south of what's modern day Saudi Arabia, and that's where they ended up. The Lord instructed Nephi how to build a ship. They built the ship, and that's how they went and found their way to the Americas. That's such another really cool story. But more about the story you were talking about.
Yes.
Walking through. Lehi has this dream, and
this idea that truth can be found within. It's more prevalent told in a story than it is. You're fat, thin, get thin.
Sure, yeah. Like telling stories is definitely like that's a great way to,
Let me tell you about my friend Nick's story.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And for those listening, I don't know, go listen to my testimony.
Yeah.
Plug.
So let me tell you real quick in a nutshell this dream that Lehi had. It's called in the LDS faith, it's called the Tree of Life, right? Which is a very common theme in most religions, but the dream Lehi had. Anyway, in the dream, he was walking through darkness, right? And he felt lost, and he was alone, and he felt like he was, going to be destroyed, like it's over. And that's when, an angel or heavenly messenger or whatever you want to call it appears and kind of says, well, take a look at this. And he looks and he sees this tree, the tree of life. And he goes up to the tree, and it's this, this bright light in the middle of this darkness. And he takes some of the fruit. And as he eats the fruit, he says, it is the sweetest thing he has ever tasted. It just fills his soul with joy. And he just loves it, right? And then he looks over and he sees some of his family. He sees his wife. He sees Nephi and Sam, some of his sons. And he's calling to them and saying, like, come try this fruit, come check it out, right? And as they're walking through the darkness, the darkness keeps like surrounding them, but there's this iron rod, almost like a handrail pathway, right?
Yeah.
And the way to get to the tree through the darkness is by holding on to this iron rod. And he sees his other sons, Laman and Lemuel, who are notorious in the Book of Mormon for being, just straight up turds, right? They're just the worst. They are constantly rebelling against their father. They don't believe in the teachings of the gospel, and they're kind of wayward children, right?
So kind of like the sons of Eli.
Yeah, very similar. Yeah, like it's
And
honestly,
the
I
sons
think
of
it's
Samuel.
it's a common theme. You have
And like the son of every single prophet.
yeah, like some good kids and some bad ones.
Yeah.
And in long story short, they are holding on to the rod, but they let go and they leave and they get lost in the darkness. And there's other aspects of the story, but I won't go into. But the point is, to me, that tree, the tree of life, it represents truth. It represents Jesus Christ and the gospel and like finding and living truth, right?
Yeah.
And it's a journey to get through there, and it's hard because the world is just full of so much. There's so many different voices, so much confusion, a lot of contention, right? And I think, you said this really quickly. I don't even know if you noticed it, but you're like, what is truth, right? Like that's a question people like, what even is truth? Like, what am I looking for? Is there such thing as absolute truth, or is truth relative? Like, what's true for you is true for you. And what's true for me is true for me.
Is it all a simulation?
Yeah. Is this all the Matrix? Right? Is none of this real?
Is this a simulation where Elon Musk is the designer?
That would not be surprised, frankly, because he's a genius. But
Do you think
anyway,
that could be happen? That could be possible?
that this is all a simulation? I mean, I guess I was talking to my brother about this, like a lot of things. What if? Like, what if this is like none of this is real?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, I guess anything is possible. It would be really, really, really surprising though, but it's possible, I guess. But if it happened, I'd be like, wow, I never in a million years would have guessed that. But I guess that's it, because it's very naive of me to say like, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Because I don't know.
Your head's probably getting cut off when you get happy like that. And dude,
It's
my
symbolic.
hair. Why didn't you say that at the back?
I loved it.
Thank you. Is it the I can see like a bald spot, right? Is that
It's beautiful.
alopecia? Here I come.
So let me pitch a question at you then.
Yes.
Slide across the table.
Real quick, hold it, because I have something
pull
here.
this
Is
question
that
back.
keep it in your satchel,
Like,
and
essential, yeah.
but that question of, do you think that it could be? I had this thought the other day, is that could be, would be, should be.
Mm-hmm.
Very different, very, very different, and it depends on how you say them. Because like, do you think that you could parachute without any parachute and make it safely down to land after jumping out of a plane? Do you think you could? Like, yeah, I could, maybe.
Right.
I could.
Yeah.
But do you think you would? Yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Maybe if I had some experience and whatnot and doing it, and that's possible. Here, I'll cue in the video. No, I'm just kidding.
This is me jumping out of a plane. No parachute.
Yes. And then, but should you? Is like, then once you get to the should you, then then it leads you to that question, is like, what is truth?
Right.
Right? Because it's could you? I don't know. I mean, it seems like anything is possible in this world now.
Mm-hmm.
Legitimately, anything is possible. Did I say that word right? Legitimately in that? Okay.
Nailed it.
So anyway, just what did you hold in your satchel?
Yeah, so here's my
Let's see
satchel.
What is in there?
So what do you think? Like, is there such thing as absolute truth? Like, is there a truth that is the truth? Or do you think like truth is relative, and it's like, just like what's true for you is true for Sam. What's true for me is true for me. There's not one thing that actually is true, as long as everyone is doing what they think is true. No, what do you think? I'll tell you what I think, but I want to know what you think.
So immediately where my mind goes is like, well, what is our common truth?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sitting across from you, and I want to know our common truth. What is it that we both believe in?
Yeah.
It's not because if I was sitting in my room and I was thinking to myself, what is true?
Mm-hmm.
What is true? Well, I'm thinking to myself, that's true. Okay. You know, what else is true? Well, I just said what else is true in my head. You know, what else is true? And I usually itch myself.
Cool.
Etch myself. Is that the word? I usually travel down if I continue to think that.
Mm-hmm.
Then I either get to, well, there's a creator, or I get to, damn, I'm lonely. Like I am damn. So what I to bring it back around is that our common truth, that I believe we have, is that there is somebody. There is a creator,
mm-hmm.
and like that's stripped down to like the most common, it's just stripped down truth. It's diluted truth.
Right.
But I think that we can go deeper. There's a philosopher that, or I don't know who said, but no, I do. Nietzsche, maybe. Sounds right. Friedrich Nietzsche.
Love it.
He said that the strength of a man is determined by the amount, or the how much he needs the truth diluted. So to speak, like that's what he's. I think that's something
people that like the stronger you are, I guess.
Yes.
The more you can just kind of take the truth for what it is without having to water it down.
Yes.
Yeah, kind of makes sense. Yeah.
But I mean, you see that on the news. It's like, oh, well, here's this, like, you know, like, well, I don't want to get into that, but so we're like children bathing in milk at this point. Mm-hmm. Whenever I look at you and I'm like, our common truth is that we both believe that there's a creator. Mm-hmm. Let's dive a little bit more. So the question is, what is one truth that I without a doubt believe?
Yeah.
Is that there is a creator. Mm-hmm. And then it kind of moves down the line of, what does that mean? Like, well, I was created by my parents. Mm-hmm. So then that sentence gets a little bit longer by saying there is a creator that created all.
Yeah.
Right? So I believe that as a truth. Mm-hmm. So there's two, kind of, I guess.
Right.
But infinite, if you look into it.
Sure, that makes sense. Yeah.
Depending on your definition of all of those words.
For me, because I think you're right, because there's truth. I think, there's truth in the religious sense, right?
Yeah.
And then there's truth, I think, in like just the scientific world sense. Like, what is truth? This kind of oversimplifying it is like, sky is blue. Yeah, okay. I mean, that's true, right? You can't be like, no, it's not, you liar. Like, it's not blue. Yeah, it is. Like, it's pretty clear, right? And that's verified. You can see it. Now, exactly what it is that makes the sky blue, that kind of is determined by scientific theory. Scientists have studied it, and they've kind of pieced it together. And like, okay, this is why we say the sky is blue, right? It's, the refraction of certain light waves, and blue is the one that stands out the most, and that's when we see boom, right? And that's probably true.
Yeah.
Like a million scientists agree, like, yeah, okay, that's true. But then when you look into the religious sense, right? Because like why the sky is blue, it's a definition and an understanding that we have assigned it as people, right? So that's true for us. Like it's our common truth. Like, okay, we can all agree as human beings that the sky is blue, and it's blue because X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
Religious truth, I think, is a little different.
By the way, I'm starting to think about the song Man Gave Names to All the Animals by Bob. What's his name? Oh, I'm going to get some of the slack if anybody actually watches this. What's his name?
Bob Dylan?
Yes.
I just guessed. The most famous singing Bob I know. Anyway, with religious truth, I know that there is...
Opposed to biological, astronomical, mathematical, objective, subjective truth.
Yeah, a lot. Well, that's like, to me, the separating line is the only thing that is absolute truth. Because one thing I think that's happening, kind of going back to like, what's the future of the church, the future of Christ's church and the religion, is too many people are seeing truth as being relative. It's like, truth is true because, like, my truth is my truth and your truth is your truth, right? My truth is there is a God and creator. Your truth is there's not. But as long as that's our own truths, and
but it's more like this: is that my God is the creator, and He loves everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Mm-hmm.
With you on that. How does He love everybody?
Right. Yeah.
And then you start to talk about discipline, and they're like, whoa,
Mm-hmm. Like,
my God doesn't mind if I do those things.
Yeah.
I know they're wrong. He knows they're wrong. That's why I made the covenant. Like,
right.
He gets me. He knows every hair on my head. Mm-hmm. Okay. He gets me.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I can do that.
It's a relative truth. At that point, it's like not absolute. But the C.S. Lewis talks about how there are just objective, complete, absolute truths that whether you believe in it or not, they're still true.
I'm listening. I'm just making sure that the last one cut off at 34 minutes.
Mm. But anyway, because you're listening, so I'm just keep talking.
I got them in the phones. Even if I didn't have the phones, I could still hear you.
You hear me. You'd feel it.
But to pull us back into it, what were we talking about?
Talking about absolute truth.
Absolute truth.
Yeah. And how, God has given His children teachings and commandments that are absolute true with the expectation that we don't deviate from that. And I think, like you were saying, a lot of people, what they do is they take the teachings of the gospel, but then they kind of change it to kind of fit whatever it is, like how they want to live their lives. And that's not what it's about. That's not to say that God is this, firm dictator who says you can't break my rules. But the commandments that He gives us and kind of the teachings of the gospel that we're supposed to live, they're meant for our happiness, They're meant to help us. But that's hard to do sometimes because it means you have to give up some things. You have to make sacrifices. You have to look outside yourself. And that's hard for people. So instead what they do is they say, that makes me uncomfortable, so that means that can't be true. So my God, He's cool if I do X, Y, Z, right? And that's how they kind of, that objective truth, what is right and what is wrong and what is it that God wants you to do, gets kind of skewed. And people kind of turn into what they want it to be, when in reality, there is one truth that God has taught.
So I'll give you a scientific, objective truth.
Awesome. Hit me with it.
Islam is the fastest growing religion in the world today.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that would be a scientific truth, objective truth.
Right.
Basically, it's the fastest.
Well, it's the same thing, because the same thing is there are facts like that, like sky's blue, right? And then Islam's fast growing religion. This table is made of wood, right? Like those are truth, right? But without getting too deep, those are truths because those are truths that we have signed to it, right? We agree that this table is wood because,
Let's actually go for wood, but
I'm so embarrassed. No.
But that was me potentially trying to segue into that, is that if Islam is the fastest growing religion, then okay, why is that? It's because I believe that they have a law and you have to follow it. Mm. They have a law and you have to follow it. Mm-hmm. And if you don't, then sorry.
Yeah.
Say yeah. And I think that we're how do I jump into this? I don't go to a church. Mm-hmm. I considered for a while to go to a Catholic church, mm-hmm. or to try going to another non-denominational, or even consider going to the Church of Latter-day Saints, right? Now, with the Catholic is that they're very structured, mm-hmm. and very orderly, and we do this. They have a very strict law, although some of their folks don't really follow. Mm-hmm. Okay, that's
you
subjective.
You can say about any faith, but yeah.
Sure, thank you. And then you also have the more Protestant. It's more like when you walk in and it's like, hey, how you doing? And at the Catholic Church, it's more like, how are you today? Mm. Mm-hmm. So
different culture, yeah.
Yeah, and so what I believe is that there's some people who need to go to a Catholic church, mm-hmm. and I believe that there's some people who need to go to a Protestant church, a more non-denominational, very Actually, I'm really against non-denominational churches. I can't stand them anymore.
Why is that?
Why is that?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that they're small and they're the only ones, and it turns into basically money. It comes down to, well, we only have 10 people in our congregation. Our biggest donor is about to leave. He likes it when you talk about this.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So if you could keep talking about that, but also talk about this, even though that is in complete contrast to what newcomers need to hear.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So then it turns into this like financial, kind of like what we were talking about with the news and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's
all turns to more of a business than an actual like ministry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're rolling on this. So so I don't see non-denominational churches in the future. What do you think? That's a big fat statement. Yeah. Now we're down to like a 10% audience. Do you realize that?
Yeah.
You said that you're part of the Church of Latter-day Saints. I said that I don't believe that non-denominational churches are going. I mean, what else is there?
Boom, boom, boom. That's it. We got to cast a pretty wide net there, and everyone got out. But no, I think that in the future it's only going to be non-denominational faiths. Mm-hmm. Actually, I think what's going to be.
You just shorten non-denom.
Non-denom. Totes non-denom, bro.
Non-denom. Non-denom.
That's what they're gonna sing. No, the down the road, I don't know how far from now, but in the future, I think that it's going to be all either non-denominational or just no organized religion at all. There's always going to be the pastors who that's their career, and so they're going to make congregations. But outside of that, I think a lot of people are going to head the route with like, I can be a spiritual. I don't need a church, right? Mm-hmm. I don't need, a room. Like my body is my church, right? Like my life is my church. And I do think there's a lot of merit to the fact that you can be close to God on your own. There are some people that can't go to church, right? Like in some countries, physically they can't leave their home, or their country's laws don't allow them to worship.
Communist China.
Sure. Maybe. I actually don't know. But
now we're unable to air in China. Great.
Awesome. So
just kidding. China's great.
Yeah, please let us in. Anyway, but
don't let us in.
I think there's a lot of merit to the fact that you can do that. But I do believe there's a reason why when Christ came down and when he had his ministry, he didn't go around he did go around teaching, right? Mm-hmm. But he didn't say, do your own thing, right? He didn't say you don't need a church. He organized a church. He made one. He organized apostles. And those after his ascension, those apostles organized a group of 70, right? Mm-hmm. And then they had bishops, and they had, an organization.
Sure. That's what I find so intriguing about the Church of Latter-day Saints is that they're the most organized as a religion, is that they have, it's down to a T, mm-hmm. which it should be to some degree because,
well, the way
been around for 100, 200, 500 years?
Almost 200 years. Yeah.
200 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
Coming up on 200, if it hasn't already, pretty soon.
Like, what's with the Catholic Church? Come on. Why don't you send, 2,000, 3,000 people down to disaster relief disasters? During Hurricane Harvey, there's 1,500 Mormons that showed up on boats.
Nice.
Maybe not on boats, but
Elven canoes.
Yeah. That's exactly where my mind was going.
I knew it.
But
anyway, in that kind of to that fact, that's why, strip everything away, bottom line, I think it is important just to try and be your best self, obviously, and to just try your best to just be a genuinely good person. Mm-hmm. That being said, I do believe very strongly that organized religion, in the sense like having a, not necessarily the building, but more just that congregation and that group and that consistency in teaching is very important. Because you go, in the Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints, what I love about it, this isn't a pitch for the church, by the way, but just we're on that topic. It's if you were to go to a congregation on the other side of the world, if you go to South Africa, or you were to go to, South Korea, like where my brother's at right now,
sure,
and you were to go into one of their congregations, they would be teaching not the exact same lesson, but the doctrine they would teach is going to be the exact same thing you would find at the one right down the road. Like that's the way Christ taught. That's what Paul had to keep doing, right? All of his letters are like, hey, you guys are talking about idols and pagans, and you're kind of getting outside the scope here. Let's bring it back in. These are Christ's teachings, right?
Yeah.
This is the truth. And people kind of drift away, and he's like, no, like this is it, right? And that's what Christ was trying to do as well. But that's hard for people to do because a lot of people feel like, oh, like all these rules, right? All these commandments, like it's restricting, you know?
Little mini Martin Luther's running around going, yeah, I could fix this a little bit. I'm sure there's also a lot of non-denominational churches that are that have very similar core principles and beliefs, core values, principles, doctrine. We'll say that as the Mormon Church, as the Church of Latter-day Saints, is that that's their, and they go out, they just sprout off because they're like, yeah, we don't really believe in the Godhead, we believe in the Trinity, but everything else, and then it's like, okay, all right.
Mm-hmm. No, you're right.
Okay.
And it is important to like establish those common truths. And that's how I think you can increase civility when talking about religion with people. Because you kind of start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
You start by being like, okay, well, we both believe in Jesus Christ and that he's the savior, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
What was the meeting in Lord of the Rings where they all came together?
Oh, like the council, whatever, of the ring or.
Yeah. What was it called though? It was like the meeting of something.
I think it was called the meeting of something. I don't remember. But you know what you're talking about, where like Elrond's there, and they're all around the ring trying to figure out what to do. Yeah.
I wish at this point that we could have like a Baptist there, and then our Methodist human over there.
Down the road, I think we should.
The two little hobbits, which are, I still haven't figured out who the hobbits are.
Well, you gotta make sure that whoever it is wants to be a hobbit. They're
probably like a Mennonite or something.
People who will never listen to this. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Good call. But that kind of makes sense, right? The Mennonites are very. They have a lot of commonalities with the hobbits, okay?
I guess. Like super nice, probably.
Gosh, and it's like the Mennonites are the only ones. That was the last like drop in our demographic as far as this
those are the
podcast.
People. Oh well, now it's just us. Well, that's
whatever.
Meant better that way. But anyway, yeah. So I think that going back to your question, down the road, I think that people are going to stray away from organized religion, and they feel like they don't need one. And as long as they just have themselves and their Bible, that they'll be fine. But the fact is, without one of the benefits of having organized faith is a consistency in teachings. When you, for example, it's like, I don't know, like, for example, baptism, great example, right? A lot of different churches have a lot of, like, everyone agrees that baptism is important and sacred. But from there, it just sprouts off into 100 different things.
Credo baptism.
Right. How do you baptize, right? Is it by immersion? Do you just sprinkle on the head? How, like, do you need to do it to obtain salvation? Or is it something that you just can do as a symbol if you want? And it just kind of like...
I believe in a God that is creator of all, that is all loving, all knowing, that requires you to have a baptism at birth, because if you don't, your sins will not be forgiven.
That's what you believe.
No, that would be like a Catholic
example. Yeah, great example.
That would be like that, and somebody who would like, I play this chord.
Yeah.
At the table. Here it is. I believe in God who is almighty, all loving, all knowing, that requires you by law, by doctrine, to be baptized at birth.
Who is this right now? What do you?
I don't know.
Okay, it's good. I just making sure it's good.
It's a little bit of Will Ferrell and Anchorman. It's a little bit of just the library master because of the uniform that I'm wearing.
Yes.
I wouldn't consider it much of a uniform, but just something to that degree. But I believe this, and then you come to the table and you're like, I don't really know what you guys believe as far as baptism.
I want to see your best Isaac impression, though. Let's see what you got.
I want to see your best Isaac impression. I think that it's more of just a Minnesotan. It's just such as somebody from Minnesota.
Oh
Whenever
gosh.
I listen to your voice,
like
I just think of it. For some reason, it comes out as Minnesota.
It's like I'm looking in a mirror. That's crazy.
It's strange for me too. It also has a little bit of an Irish twang.
Irish Minnesotan? That's me? Cool. I'll take that.
But what?
Anyway,
back to it.
Yeah.
That's what we need to have for like all the podcasts where we just rant on some stupid thing like that.
It turns into just like an improv comedy podcast.
Yes.
How did that happen? But yes, bottom line is, I think that people are going to go away from organized religion, and I think that it's important. But that's just what's going to happen, and fewer people. I think the right now the norm, I think, is people like finding their congregation, but down the road, people are going to drift away from that because they don't think they need it. There's too many requirements. People feel judged. There's a lot of stigmas, I think, associated with that. And kind of like what you said, some people, they leave certain congregations because of, it's more like money driven. Whatever the reasons might be, less and less people are going to have trust in that. But I think that it is very important. I do think that organized religion, in the sense of denominational faiths, right?
Yes.
In general, is important. And naturally, of course, me being a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I, of course, believe that, that organization is extremely important, right?
Yes.
And, it's a very common belief, obviously, in our faith, because we send out thousands of 18 and 19-year-old boys and girls in white shirts and ties all the time, just trying to spread the word,
up conversation, and just knock on your door and bother you at dinner time,
correct,
and lunchtime.
Try and find the most inconvenient times to knock on your door. We're kind of like peeking a window and wait. I say we because I was one once, and so we wait. And as soon as you're about to sit down, we're like, knock, knock, knock. It's like, hey.
I feel like you've actually done that.
The peeking in the window I have done, just to see if someone's home. It's like, no, because at some point you're doing it every day for 2 years. You don't care anymore. It's like, whatever. Who's in there? Let us teach you a message. Come on.
Is there somebody in there?
Yeah. Open the door, walk in. No, just kidding. Don't do that.
So my whole thing is that I don't know how far in the future we're going, but I can say that Islam is the fastest growing religion. People are flooding more into very law-abiding, like very strict. It's Islam is. Let's be clear that Islam is probably one of the most strict religions.
Yeah.
On this earth.
I think
right?
Orthodox is like Orthodox Muslims do. Yeah, it's a very, very strict. Mm-hmm.
Or Orthodox Judaism, they're pretty.
Yeah, also strict. You can arguably Orthodox Mormons also have their level of strictness. I think if you're truly Orthodox, there's like a level of rigor. But yes, Muslim faith is a great example. Yeah.
So remember whenever I was explaining that I see like 3 chambers. Well, I see a lot of 3.
A lot of 3s, yeah.
Number of 3, and so in this case, I would say that there is. I mean, it's a spectrum, right? Mm-hmm. That word has been changed quite a bit.
Yeah.
Every time I think of spectrum, I think of gender. But I'm not even going to show my cards on that one. But
yeah, maybe wait till we're a couple episodes in.
Yeah. So, but the more strict, the more law-abiding faiths are growing. Mm-hmm. And I say that Islam is the fast. I can guarantee you that Catholicism and just Orthodox, fill in the blank, are also growing along with Islam, right? Mm-hmm. They're up there. I can tell you right now that non-denominational is probably up there.
Yeah.
But I bet their turnover rate is just like crazy.
That's probably true.
People walking in and they're like, yeah, totally. 8 months in, baptized. Yeah, totally. Met this guy. Met this girl. Met this, got this awesome job in this other place. God, I'm comfortable. I don't need you right now.
Sure.
So that's kind of like your middle class there, right there, turning.
Yeah.
And then you have like the more laid back Protestant believers that I go to church every day. Every day. I go to church every day.
Yeah.
I'm a casual churchgoer though.
Right.
But for me, when I think of the future of the church, I see those 2 extremes growing.
Mm-hmm.
The people who just go to church on the Sundays, every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, how you doing, Paul? I'm doing good, Danny. We're both white people, clearly, in this hypothetical that Sam is creating.
Right.
White, lame people. Sorry. But, no, that won't offend anybody. Okay.
No, that's good. Yeah. Offend white people, please.
Great. So, I wonder, though, There's probably that 1%, 0.001% that are like,
They're
my
gone.
name is Danny.
Yeah. I'll cut you.
What?
Insensitive to Danny's everywhere. Sorry,
but the
Danny's.
people who are casual goer, just, I will go on. I don't really follow. I still drink on the Sabbath. Like, we go to church and then we go home and we just have some booze, whatever. Like, hey.
Like,
and then you have
less
the people
disciplined.
Yes, and then you have the people, and then Monday through Saturday is just like,
Yeah.
I read my Bible only on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And this
Ricky Bobby.
hypothetical, he's clearly from Texas as well.
Right.
Danny, and who's the other guy?
Danny and Paul.
Danny and Paul from
Some congregation in Texas.
From Abilene, Texas. We're ready to learn about the gospel on Sundays.
Mm-hmm.
And then you also have the other people who are like, waking up early in the morning. I don't want to do that. The moment I started thinking that, I was like, me. I'm totally like this great Christian. I'd wake up in the mornings, I read, I go to sleep at night, and I read then too. And then throughout my day, I get these little text messages from my Bible app that tell me like,
say that, but you do that, right?
Yeah, I do that. Yeah, poking fun at myself. But yeah, somebody who is in. But then again, I'm also kind of in the middle because I don't really abide. Well, I guess it's partially because I don't go to a church. Is that I don't have any kind of doctrine.
Why is that? Why don't you go to a church?
Why don't I go to a church?
Yeah, talk about that.
Because I think that the church is changing. I think that the future of the church is something like this.
And again, just a reminder for me, when you say the church, what are
Yes.
you referring to?
My church, not your church.
All right.
My truth, not your truth.
Sure.
So I see in the future is that we can edit this out and be like, Sam prophesizes about the church.
No, let's hear it. Let's hear prophecy.
But really,
Hit us with it.
I believe that it's going to be something more like this, where it starts with 2 people and then it grows to 3 people and it grows to 4 people and separating views, coming from different churches, okay, what have you, but it's very similar to this would probably narrow it down. He doesn't believe in the resurrection, but he attends a Jewish church on a regular basis.
This is someone you know?
Not somebody I know.
Oh.
Somebody who's on the
This is
internet.
a hypothetical person. Okay.
And he's made clear that like there has to be not a new religion, but an alliance between those who believe, if we want this world to continue to be. And so I see something of like I said, Church of Latter-day Saints, Baptist, Catholic, a Mennonite joins in, even though he's totally against all of this technology in here.
Sure, yeah.
But we come in here and we talk and like grow from there. Because the one thing that I see in common between all religions is that that's not sinful. You know what I mean? To gather in a room with those who believe
A little differently than you is not wrong.
is not wrong.
Yeah. And this is, so when you say then that,
And I think it is also very similar when Paul and all of those followers of Christ were in that room, and then like, click, something clicked on, and they could all understand each other. A miracle happened.
yeah.
You went from the Tower of Babel in the Old Testament to in the room with Paul and all of these other Frenchmen and Spaniards and fill in the blank. Romans. I don't know the tribes back in the kingdoms, but I'm sure that there were French and the Italian and the.
I actually don't know either. We do need
Anyway,
a historian on here.
Yeah, and they spoke, and all of them understood what each other said because they had the same. I almost believe that it wasn't even a whole bunch of different people who maybe that. Anyway.
So if I understand what you're saying,
I feel like somebody that like a paintball, just like you throw it at it, and for it to look cool, you have to do it in slow motion, and then get it in the middle, that frame, not of it completely splat and done, but that shot in slow motion of it
That's how you feel?
But yeah, whenever I talk, and then it just goes splat, and then it's like, okay, like there's just like a paint running down my wall, and
But it's like neon colored paint though, so it's still dope looking.
it's still kind of
so.
dope looking, but like, what was the point of it? Like, there's the delivery that was awesome, okay?
Yeah, you
Hear me out.
perfectly.
So anyway, what I was saying, go ahead.
Yes, you're saying because I asked you like, why don't you go to, like you said I'm not a part of any church. I don't go to any church. And I said, why is that? And then if I understand so far, you're saying, if I'm dissecting what you said, that is because you don't think it's necessary, or you're just haven't found one that you like that's consistent with.
No,
you think is truth.
It would be out of bounds to be even saying something like, I believe my purpose is to. But then that would be like, my purpose is to be the new Jesus. Like, that's not the route I'm going down. That is quite
the claim.
But it's a slippery slope to be like, it's a very slippery slope to be able to say, not to be able to, but to say, I don't go to church because I don't believe it's necessary. Mm-hmm. I think a community is necessary.
Yeah.
I think that.
Do you just think you haven't found the right community?
No, but. And I also don't think it's because I like a disdain the churches that proclaim to be the church. Mm-hmm. Because I've ran into a lot of those that are just. I'm going to drink my water. Leave it on a cliffhanger. We'll talk to you next week. When Sam comes clean about the churches who have hurt him. But the thing is that I don't think that they've like hurt me. Like, it's like I see it and I'm just like, okay.
Well, churches are made up of, any church is made up of just people, and people are imperfect, right? That doesn't justify being treated wrong, being treated poorly, but it does explain it.
But some of it's not even like treated wrong or poorly. It's like treated. It's not even much about the treatment. It's just like they say one wrong thing, and it's like, I'll give you an example.
Hit me with it.
Went into a pastor. This was fairly recent, so I don't know if I should say. I will say it.
Cool.
And told him that I'm pretty much going through hell. Mm-hmm. I mean, let's just leave it at that.
Yeah, going through a way hard time.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he goes, have you tried medication? It's like, wow. At first I was like, I took it into consideration, and I was like, I trust this man. And then after that I was like, no. Mm-hmm. Like, have you tried medication? And then I was listening to podcasts, and I heard this psychologist who said that there'd be oftentimes that he'd have a client, and they'd sit down and tell them their story, catch them up on the present time. Mm-hmm. And they go, at the end of it, I think I'm depressed. And you look at him and go, you're not depressed, you're going through hell.
Yeah.
Like your life is a living hell where you're at right now. Like, it's tough. You know, depression is neurological, right? And I don't think as many people who claim to have depression have depression.
So you
that's a pretty bold statement to say that. maybe they do. I don't really have any statistic or any knowledge on who's depressed and who isn't. But at that time being, when he said that you should consider medication, it's like prayer. You know, hold my hand and pray. I don't know. Maybe that'd be a better. But after he said that, it was just like, if he knew me,
Mm-hmm.
it's like, no, it's not depression. It's not that. It's
Right.
like, I've been depressed caused by medication.
Mm-hmm.
ADD medicine caused me to become depressed,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I've felt that feeling before. So
in this example with this pastor, you had spoken with him, kind of opened up your heart to try and seek some help and guidance, and the response was,
here's
Take-
this
take
eternal
some
water,
meds.
drink it.
yeah. And yet you didn't like that.
Camera angle on me. Here's the eternal. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just I don't think that was true.
Yeah.
That was the. And if that's how you treat one person in the congregation, it's probably how you treat all of them.
Mm. So for you then, how important
And that's
it to
anecdotal.
you?
I get it.
Sure. How important is it to you? Because I feel like a lot of people, when they're looking for a church
Yes.
to go to, they're actually looking for a pastor.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that is the church. Is, you know,
Well, just as
how the pastor teaches and what he teaches is whether or not I'm going to, and of course the community of people that are there, right? But it's almost just like you know, you're not looking so much for the doctrine being taught. You're just looking for like the pastor, and as long as you resonate with that pastor, okay, this is my church, this is my jam, this is my place. You know?
sure.
Would you agree with that?
No, I think that that's a factor.
Mm-hmm.
I think the pastor's a factor.
Yeah.
I think the congregation also, but here's the thing: is that if the pastor is not, if the pastor is that pastor and the congregation isn't communicating with the pastor, the reason why he's that pastor is because the congregation is not communicating with that pastor
Mm-hmm.
or the elders or however the hierarchy looks.
Sure.
Is that they are not keeping, just like that 3 thing. You got your elders, you got your pastor, and you got your congregation,
Mm-hmm.
right? Pastor's a little whack. Congregation is like the the Senate or the representatives,
Mm-hmm.
and they talk to the senators, and then the senators, go, okay, make a bill.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it. I'll help you push it through. Okay. And then the pastor's like, whoa. Or they go, okay, this individual in the congregation is rebuking me. And, okay,
Mm-hmm.
let's chat about it.
Yeah.
I don't have much time. I'm the pastor. I'm doing a lot. I get it, pastor. But this is something that needs to be presented to you.
Mm-hmm.
I could have probably just said the pastor is an element. It's a factor
Sure.
of choice, yes. Because the congregation is downstream from the pastor to some degree.
Right. So on that, or in that vein,
To some degree. Because
there's not the mic there. Well, this is my personal thoughts about it, because that's what people want to listen to this, because they want to know my personal thoughts and your personal thoughts, right?
yes.
'Cause heaven
My
knows-
subjective,
yes.
your objective.
Yeah, no. But personally, kind of going back to the idea of organized religion.
By the way, can we change that to the podcast name?
Sure.
My subjective, his objective.
My objective, yeah, because
I-
my truth is truth.
Well, sometimes it's my objective.
Well, because the way I see it, and this is probably a cultural thing, and this is because how it's brought up, but I find a lot of peace knowing the reason why I remain loyal, I guess, to my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is because it's beyond just, I like the people, I like the leaders, and I got lucky that the people I happen to, because the way the church works is wherever you live, that determines the congregation you go to, right? You don't pick and choose. It's just those are the boundaries, right? And that's kind of the way it keeps it uniform.
It doesn't work like the Catholic Church where they say, or the Methodists. I think it's the Methodists that do this. Is that they say, I think that you and your family would be better fit here in Kansas City versus Wichita.
Right.
They don't move people.
No. Sometimes they move the boundaries based on like populations, and they're trying to make sure there's not too many.
But where you grow up, where you.
So it's kind of like if I were to move, like right now, the building I go to and the time that I go at is because of where I live. Okay. If I were to move to a different city, then I would go there.
And you're free to move.
Sure.
You don't have to like ask anybody.
No, you can just move. You can do whatever you want, right?
That's cool. Well, not whatever you want.
Right. And technically, I mean, there's not like a solid rule. Like if it's not like they catch you going to a different ward at a different time. A congregation is called a ward.
Yeah.
They're like, what are you doing here? This is the wrong one. Like you can still do whatever you want, right? Like you can go. But the idea is the structure of the organization, like you get certain roles and responsibilities. The idea is you stay in that ward. But anyway, so the ward that I'm a part of right now, the congregation I go to, I like the people, I like the bishop, but I can totally see why, like if that is what you're going for, right? If you're going there because of the people and the leader, then as soon as that leader does something that offends you, or as soon as the people that you go with are disagreeable for whatever reason, then you're gone. There's no reason to stay. Why would you stay if you're not with people that you like? For me, it goes beyond that because I believe that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is Christ's church. I believe that he is at the head of it, and that's not to say all other faiths are bad, right? But I believe that the way that things are taught there are done streamlined right from the source, right from the Savior himself, through his leaders to us, like that's it. And so for me, I don't go to church just because of the people there. I love the people, right? But if I were surrounded with people that I did not like, I like to think that I would still go because I go for him. I go for Christ. I go because it's his church, right?
Yeah.
And I'm going there because I've made covenants. I've made promises. I need to go there. I need that. That being said, it's not realistic to say that if you don't like the community that you're a part of, you're going to stay. I get that. But the underlying principle is that that helps me because there have been times where like my bishop, which is kind of the equivalent of a congregation pastor in the LDS faith, my bishop maybe is someone that I haven't always gotten along with, or I don't always agree with the way that he chooses to kind of run the ward, I guess. There are some families in the ward that I'm in that, it happens in any congregation you go to, but I'm able to kind of push past that and still just be like, okay, why am I actually here? I'm here. I go to church, this organized religion, because I believe it's a commandment. I believe that God's asked me to. This is how he's asked me to keep the Sabbath day holy. You go to church, you renew your covenants, you take the time to dedicate, kind of make a sacrifice and do something that you may not always want to do for the Lord. You go there, you do it. You're part of his teachings. You get taught the same doctrine. And then your life is overall improved. So that's one of the reasons why also I think that down the road, non-denominational, no religion, no organized religion is how it's going to be. Because more and more people assume that because if you don't have that anchor, which is beyond the leader and beyond the people, this church, this isn't just one that someone made themselves and had people come. This is Christ's church. And
this is not an advertisement for Christ Church, by the way.
Right.
This is a church called Christ Church.
Yes. Christ Church, which would be a good name. Be pretty clear. But
here in Kansas City, I believe.
But yeah.
Alaska, actually, by the way.
Oh, that's real?
I don't know. When you do a podcast or a video, you can say
I'm
that
sure
you're
it's
in
real
Alaska,
somewhere.
even though, like...
But yeah, down the road, I think more and more people are going to leave organized religion because their loyalty, I guess, their bond with that congregation is because of the pastor and the people, and that's where it ends. And as soon as that doesn't jive with you, you're out of there. And that's why people end up being nowhere because they're like, well, I don't really know where to go.
I think technology could probably take us over too. I think that what you're seeing when you look around, if you go downtown and look around and people just... Dude, do you know how many times I look over while I'm driving down the road and I see somebody on their damn phone?
All the time.
Like 70%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Easily like 80%. And you know what I'll do whenever they
throw a brick at them? That's what we do. Oh, sorry.
Shout out to the Church of the Latter-day Saints. Yeah. Really throwing down the law as far as texting and driving.
Well,
they take a brick.
That was mostly just me and Mary, but I'm sure the church uses that too. No.
It has a Jesus loves you on it.
That's right. It's smashed into the window.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like, stop it.
But what I'll do, I'm not joking when I say this. What I'll do, thanks for texting me. Now that's a face for a podcast. Do you do that often whenever you sit down with somebody and like they send you a text and you're like, oh, I forgot to reply to that text, but you've been sitting next to them for like 15 minutes and you're like, I'm going to reply to that text message right now.
All the time.
Okay, I do too. Yeah. That's funny.
Cool. Anyway,
so I'll drive past these guys.
Yep.
I'll have to honk the horn to like go.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll start driving real slow. And then I'll have to like go around them. Right. And then as I'm going around them, I'll do this. I'll just drive.
Run into the person in front of you and teach them a lesson.
Yes.
Yeah. Exactly that. Like, see what happens?
See what happens when you do this?
Yeah. Hi, I hope you learned your lesson. I got to switch my insurance info with this guy.
But this was interesting. Somebody considered me to vexation. You know the word vexation?
I'm familiar. Yes.
It's brought up in the Bible a couple times.
Yes, indeed.
This is vexation right here. And it absorbs people.
It does. I'm 100% guilty of that. I've had to delete all my social media apps recently.
Wait.
Yeah, get that wide view. And back to the camera. Just because I think that social media can be a source for good. You can use it to spread, positive messages and things that are uplifting. In a perfect world, that's what I'd like to do. Even if it's just like posting
But you ain't living in a perfect world.
Ain't that the truth? Testify. Yeah, no. So what I do is I just scroll through memes all day. And they're like they're so dumb. And it's just, I could go a lot into the psychology of, meme culture and like social media time wasting, but I won't. Point is though.
Do you know that more women than any women, Angry Birds has more, like a majority of more women than men that play it. And I also thought about this, probably Candy Crush too. I don't know this, but as far as Angry Birds goes, they made that specifically for women.
Really?
Yes, because the motion that you do, and I could be wrong. I heard it on a Joe Rogan podcast, but that's pretty much the new true internet.
Can't beat that, yeah.
But that motion that you flip up like that, like that. Women. That's why women are more on social media, right? Is because they're constantly going. Yeah, they do that, and it's like it's in your head that they just like to do that. Yeah. So if they like to do that on Twitter, I think Twitter is predominantly women, and that's
shout out to women
and Twitter.
Shout out to Twitter sponsor,
but primarily women.
Right, women sponsors.
Like women a whole lot more than Twitter. So. Objective truth. So when you throw the birds or whatever in the air, then it's just like that. What was I saying with that?
You're talking about how Angry Birds is the new church.
Well, yeah, exactly. The new church is Angry
Birds sponsor.
It was Flappy Bird, but the developer actually I think went crazy or something. The programmer.
He probably went crazy trying to beat that.
Yeah. Making all that money.
That's what it was.
Did you know that on that Snapchat t-shirt that I had, that one of the Snapchat codes, if you scanned it, it would take
cash.
You. No. Oh. Yeah. Your phone would turn into a gold bar if you scan that one QR code.
Man, you should have done that.
How funny would that be? That's what we should put up all around town. Is like scan this barcode and your phone will turn into gold. Mm-hmm. It's a QR code, right, or a Snapchat code.
Yeah,
and it'll just take it to our podcast.
Like,
this
is gold. This is the real treasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please don't leave. That's what we'll say.
But this is a perfect segue into our culture segment.
Yes, of course.
Kanye. Is he a Christian? Is he going to heaven? Okay, I think that first things first is I should say that people judge people, and it's like if you go to any place that goes, we don't judge you, you should immediately run, turn, go, get the hell out of there.
Yeah,
that's a lie. Everybody judges.
Yeah,
and to say that you don't,
and technically you're supposed to, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I agree. You're not like to. I was actually thinking about this the other day. Is that there's like you can judge people like, oh, that person's going to hell or that person's going to heaven. That's not for us to decide. We don't make that call.
So here, let me stop you right
ahead.
there. That is, I think, what they're referring to, and they need to say that. They need to say, like, we don't judge whether or not you're going to heaven or hell.
Yeah.
Not we don't judge you.
Mm-hmm.
This is the stereotypical judger.
Mm.
We don't judge you.
That sounds just like a judger.
Oh, there goes all the Valley girls. They're done watching this podcast.
Self-proclaimed Valley girls.
The only reason why that was the last demographic that we had is because they thought we were cute.
Yep.
That's
and
it.
now they're gone.
And now they're gone because
now we
now
just
I'm
got
making
the Valley
fun
boys. Super cute.
Valley
Hang in there, Valley boys. Stick around.
Shout out to San Francisco.
Yeah.
but I don't judge you. Like, bull. I want to try to keep this explicit. We've been doing very well.
Yeah.
Or not explicit.
Yeah.
But yes.
Bull honky.
Bull honky. So, when somebody says, we don't judge you, run. Now, if they say that full sentence of, we don't judge you whether or not you're going to heaven or hell, that I believe in. Yes. Yeah. I think that's a truth that we could Common
truth.
We should start writing these on a card and just, like, have a bucket here.
Like,
and just
boom, common truth.
Yeah.
Don't believe that we can judge. But I think that, in the Bible, it says to...
We don't believe that they can judge whether or not that they can go to heaven and hell.
Yeah. And Christ does say, like, judge righteously, like righteous judgment. And what I think that means is, like, you're allowed to... What does it mean to judge? There's a really negative connotation with, like, judging means you're, like, looking down on someone, right?
Sure.
But a judgment call just means weighing all the information you have and making a decision, right? And so, like, if I see someone who might be in need, I'm making that judgment, right? Like, okay, I should probably help them, right?
Yes.
And you're making a judgment call. You're supposed to do that, right? Yeah. And now, on the other hand, there's also like, if I see someone, like, who, like, that's actually like,
or judgment thought of, like, there's a crippled person and they need help.
Yeah.
You could do a really judgmental thought and be like,
Go ahead. Let's hear it.
Switch to wide. You could do a judgmental thought of, like, there's a big old patch of ice right there. It'd be so funny if he fell. Oh, is he gonna do it? Or you do the judgmental action. Now we switch back to and go over there and be like, I'm gonna help you across that.
Yeah, like, judgment just means you're just making a decision and a course of action based on the information you have. That's judgment.
By the way, I don't want crippled people to fall on ice.
Shout out to
and I think that
people.
You said crippled people.
Yeah, I guess.
I think there's a handicap
to disabled.
See, that's where
love and support.
That's where the thing is with, like, terms. Really, I don't like. For the longest time, it was cripple, right? Or maybe I grew up in the.
Well, frankly, it's I think the
shell shock.
The
go ahead.
Disabled community are the ones who get to decide what they're called, and I think they do not like being called crippled. I think that's why it happens. Anyway,
I've met some people who are crippled and they like being called crippled.
Well, in that case, there you go.
Shout out to Alex in Colorado.
Watch,
I'm gonna get a text message. He's like, dude,
I'm watching this right now, you idiot. I never said that.
I never said that.
Anyway, so culture. Do you want to talk about Kanye?
Yeah. I want to judge the heck out of Kanye.
Judge the heck out of Kanye. Well, it's
I almost
funny.
said Kami.
Out of Kanye. Well, Mary's my wife, and she's perfect.
Water bottle is my wife.
It's perfect. It's almost empty, but
there's some imperfections, I will admit.
I'm
sure there's some imperfections in your wife. Come on.
I mean, maybe. Not for me, though. She's perfect.
All right, whatever you say.
Honey, you're perfect.
That's true. When you say something.
I mean, I'm sure she's an imperfect person, but
I'm going to hold your feet to the fire, okay, buddy?
Yeah.
We just talked about truth, religion, everything. If you say something that I don't believe is true, I'm going to let you know that.
That's fair. Fine, let me throw this out there. She is perfect for me. And to me, I will say that. As a person, yeah, she's a human, so not perfect. But she's my girl. She's my Bonnie lass. Love her. So I've listened to maybe 2 Kanye West songs in my life before this album came out.
Which ones?
One was Flashing Lights. And the other one was yeah, that one. And the other one was the Poop-de Scoop. Actually, I also did listen to the Stronger, like the
Poopity scoop.
That's the one.
Scoopity poop.
Mm-hmm.
Poop scoopity.
Actually,
poop.
I didn't even hear the whole song. Just that part that my sister showed me, all the way through, flashing lights, and then the work it, make it.
Sure, and the other songs that would come
Bebop,
on at
boobop.
like dances at
Maybe, and I would know that was him. But
Sure.
the ones I'm like, that's Kanye. Then Amir and I were driving to see a movie yesterday, and I'm like, hey, Sam wanted to talk about Kanye. I should probably give this guy a listen. Plus, I have always been interested. As soon as I saw that he released his album, Jesus is King or Christ is King. Which one is it?
Yeah, Jesus is King.
That one. I'm like, that's interesting because I didn't really take Kanye West to be the religious type for whatever reason.
That's interesting because 90% of the music I listen to, he's usually talking. Usually.
Yes.
Is that good?
That's pretty good.
He's usually talking about big booties.
Good point. Maybe that's why. Yeah, I probably because I think like when I think of Kanye West, I think of classic, hip hop and just like rap that can be pretty intense and a little explicit a lot.
Just a little bit.
And so you don't really associate the things together. So I'm like, okay, well maybe this is like, and then I was actually worried that this is like an ironic like anti-religion type push. And then we were listening to it, and I was reading up the album like, oh my gosh, the genre is like gospel rap, and he actually is what sounds like to be praising Jesus. And I don't know, I guess I was not expecting that, but I'm not sure what to make of it. What do you think?
So this is where I can say they and refer to all the other people. So the rest of the folks, you have like, I think that, isn't it crazy how you can kind of get a generalized idea of the population of America's opinions? Is like, this is just for publicity.
Yeah. That's the
Like,
first thing I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. This is just for publicity. I mean, every time he's come out with an album, he's done some kind of publicity stunt. The most creative one, I think, is whenever he attacked the photographer. He attacked the photographer right before his album came out or during the album drop or something. And in one of his songs, he talked about like photographers mobbing him for photos and I'm just stomping on them or something. I thought that was very creative. But every time you see some kind of trend of he's just trying to sell an album, get more power, get more money, like he's saying about in the song Power. So, but what do I think?
Yeah.
I don't know the guy personally.
You don't?
So, no.
You don't know Kanye?
Well,
This is a waste of time. Sorry, everyone.
I met him once. Never.
I met him twice. Also never.
Also never.
Okay.
So, I don't know him. And this bothers me is when people say these kind of things. Like, I don't really know him, but he's a piece of
Yeah.
He does
Like, well, you're sure talking like you know him. But.
Yeah. So whenever it comes down to like, what is my opinion about Kanye?
Yeah.
And I do listen to a lot of his music. Like, I was actually listening to his last album on the reg, like leading up to his Jesus is King drop. And his last album, not the last album, the last album. I guess he did something with Kid Cudi. But his last personal album. I don't know. I feel like I should say some kind of like, yeah, Kanye's totally not a Christian, and you could just come back and say something.
Okay, you can say that.
I'll just play the role.
Yes,
of
he
other
is.
people.
I don't know.
He's not a Christian. Like there's no way. But that's the thing is that when you dissect why it is or who it is, like what motives somebody has, I think it's just so damn ignorant. And I said, damn, I really wanted to use another word. But I think it's so damn ignorant to say...
that word's in the Bible, so it's cool. It's kosher.
Yes. Yeah. During Noah and the flood, right? The dam broke, right?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think that was just rain. But
I'm sorry, that was Evan Almighty.
That's right. Shout out to Steve
Crow.
Yeah.
Shout out. But I think it's so damn ignorant, and just we are beyond that. We're so beyond looking at somebody and saying, this is why they did that. Like defining motives.
Yeah.
Like how that's equivalent to saying like, oh yeah, I let me be more precise with my words. Defining motives of people you have never met.
Yeah. To me, it sounds like they're making a judgment call without enough information. So that I think is a bad form of judging.
Yeah. It's like, very subjective.
Yeah.
It's just opinionated, and it's like, how much weight does that actually hold?
Yeah, because you don't know, right? Like, so, like, for me, whenever I think of Kanye...
No, definitely. He's doing this for publicity. He's definitely doing this for publicity.
I mean, frankly, that's the thing. It's like, on the one hand, he's a businessman. He's been in this business forever, and he's always trying to top his last thing. That's what I know about Mr. West, right? Because I, again, haven't really followed him ever. But I know from, like, the grapevine things he's done, I know enough about him. I know that he's notorious for being really arrogant and, you know, like, making waves, and he just loves shaking things up. That's his thing, right? He's an artist. But at the same time, it's like, on the one hand, yes, I know that he did this because he knows these types of conversations are going to happen. He knows the controversy because he's been talking about big booties for years. All of a sudden, he's like praising Jesus. I was like, what? What a pivot. Is there a bigger pivot than that? You know, like
Paul,
other than just straight up coming up with a country album. You
That's
know
the
what
thing
I mean?
is for Christians is that whenever they see something like that, they're like, is there's no way.
Yeah.
No. Like what? Have you read Acts?
Yeah.
Like have you read the story of Paul? Paul, this guy who legitimately beat the hell out of Jews.
Yeah.
Like,
and Christians
did
alike.
he kill Stephen or no? He was just there.
He was there when they stoned him to death. And
Yes.
he held their coats.
Yeah, he was a total asshole.
He
Can
was
I say
the worst.
that? Yeah, I can.
It's short.
It's not explicit.
Yeah.
As far as like
It's in the Bible.
it is. Well,
Just the
it
first
has
part.
ass and
Yeah.
whole in separate parts.
That's right. Put them
Just not
together. Boom. You got a biblical word.
But no, like Paul was like
He called himself
equivalent.
like the worst sinner ever. Like he calls himself like, I used to be like the absolute worst.
He was a murderer. Kanye was he's not a murderer.
I don't know. Shout out to Kanye.
Shout out to Kim.
Yeah. Subscribe.
Hopefully we get the text message and like, yo, we saw the podcast. It was great.
It was lit. But and I agree with you because I enjoy kind of giving people the benefit of the doubt. So if Kanye comes out with an album saying Christ is King and you listen to a few of his songs and they're just straight up, it sounds like worship, right? Then even though I'm sure he knows that this will be successful and get money, on the other hand, I'm like, at the same time, he's still spreading a message, right? He's still spreading a good message, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And if he happens to make millions of dollars off of that, fine. I don't think that poisons the message he's trying to share, right?
Yeah, it's kind of like those T-shirts that have upside down crosses all over them.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Yeah.
Like if you're anti-religion and you're walking around with shirts that have crosses upside down,
yeah,
chances are it's going to trigger something more, like some symbolic images.
Yeah.
In the two extremes, like if you see a cross right side up, you're like, oh, church.
Yeah, upside down is like, oh, that's weird.
Christ.
But
and then upside,
church.
yeah, exactly. Like it's like we're done with the star. Have you seen the star, the Satanistic star?
Yeah.
It's like, we're done with the star, and I think we're going to move on to this. What do you guys think? It's like the Illuminati table.
Yeah.
Everybody coming, like Rihanna over here, Jay-Z over here. Beyonce's like, yes.
Upside down cross.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Who proposed it was like Joe Rogan. It's like, we're going to do the upside down cross.
It's going to be big.
Yeah.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah. Everybody's going to do it. We have to do it subliminally. And people aren't going to get this. After people see it, they're not going to believe in God anymore. It's genius. And Rihanna's like, oh, yeah.
Rihanna. Great Rihanna.
Yes.
No.
And then Kim Kardashian's like, guys, my husband is tugging me, and I gotta go. And then they come out with Jesus King.
Boom. That hypothetical you pitched was beautiful.
Thank you.
It's a good story.
It's the gopher wood,
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah, and the lights and everything. I think I need to order some more lights.
Yeah, I don't think you have enough.
What's the time on this? Are we about closed?
We're getting there. Yeah.
Dude, it's only 8:30.
Yeah.
Is this an hour and a half? It feels like we've been talking for like 6 hours straight.
I know, but at the same time, it feels like I've also been here for like 10 minutes.
Yes.
It's like 10 minutes of concentrated talk. But yeah, bottom line, I like giving people the benefit of the doubt. And frankly, if Kanye West wants to share an album about Jesus, and go for it. I felt the same way whenever the South Park creators came out with the musical The Book of Mormon. It was like, yes. On the one hand, I'm just like, okay, this is obviously just nonstop making fun of my church, right? But on the other hand, it's like, this is the best marketing the church has ever got. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, there were cabs all over New York saying The Book of Mormon. And people kept calling in like, what is the Book of Mormon, you know? Yeah. And people were calling into the church.
Google search is just going ridiculous.
Yeah, and people are calling like, hey, what's the Book of Mormon? Like, oh, this is the church, but not the musical, but we can send you a copy. Like, yeah, okay. You know, it was awesome. So on one hand, it's like, whether it's for money or not, the message itself is still going to generate awareness. It's still, you know, and frankly, I'm going to go ahead and just say that Kanye, despite the capital motivations, he's being sincere. I'll just say yeah until he proves me wrong.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say like,
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, like, cool. If he feels like, if he wants to, maybe he just realizes, you know what, millions of people follow me and watch me, and I'm one of the biggest influences for good, despite my booty talk that I do. So I'm going to go ahead and go for it. And it worked.
There's a cat up in there, and you missed it.
Not surprised. There's like 100 outside.
Dude, there was one time I was doing a podcast down here and had both of these windows open because I was chiefing a little bit on a cigar. And
on Ashland Day.
Yes.
I shouldn't say that. Edit that out.
Meep. That was my best impression of a beep out, by the way. Meep. But that.
Please just make that sound bite. Actually, that's what I want for like that.
But this cat about jumped down on my snare drum and joined in on the podcast. It was warm in here, cool out there, cold out there, chilling.
Just
but to really beat the horse, to beat the dead horse, yeah, Kanye, yeah, whatever. If he proves me wrong, okay,
awesome.
But I really don't. It's for me, at least for me, when it comes to like faith, is that the more that you read it, the more that you become consumed by that. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, when some terms, and maybe you could throw some out that really come out to ring in my head, are like a consuming fire.
Yeah.
You know, it's cleansing. So like no doubt you're gonna go back to it. Like, it's revitalizing. I went from like scripture to like now it's just words, but I really feel that, and I think that for me it's like I can't really turn back. I can't like be like, yeah, I would like to not live a life with God. Like, I don't see myself saying that, except for there.
Right.
Except for there.
That was a good, but it wasn't real. Didn't count.
Yeah.
No.
And now we're definitely down to 0 listeners. Like, did he just say
now
that?
It really is.
We're taking that sound.
The Valley Boys are gone, and now it's just us.
Yes. I'm glad that you remembered each like decaying like individual. Can you name them all, by the way? Like who we had. So the demographic, we had everybody. Everybody was watching this. The whole population of the world.
Yes.
And then it moved down to.
Talked about Church of Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints. Boom. Knocked off a whole group.
Baptists are all gone at that point.
Yeah. Right. That's all I remember. And then the Valley grows in Valley.
Shout out to my buddy David. He's a Baptist.
Shout out David.
Do you know any Baptists?
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of former Baptists. The Musselmen, Zach and Nick, were both Baptists.
Okay. Shout out to the boys.
Shout out to
boys.
So
we lost the Baptist because we brought up the Church of Latter-day Saints, and then I brought up that I'm not even a part of a church. So then the Orthodox crew is just, they're gone. And then after that, who was it?
The Mennonites that were listening.
Oh yeah, they
Gone.
left because I was.
Compared them to hobbits, yeah.
And then after that, the Valley girls left because I started talking like a. Oh no! Was that before or after the handicapped people left?
That was probably after. So yeah, handicapped people were gone.
Yes.
Disabled, sorry. I think that's probably true. Now they're really gone. And then Valley Girls, and then
Shell shock. I mean,
Valley Boys.
post-traumatic stress. I mean, PTSD. I mean, how many different definitions are they going to use? Now the Muslims are out of here. That was my best one. Okay.
Oh man, yeah. Me.
What did you say? What did you say that we had to bleep you out?
I was I don't know. I got bleeped out.
As if like it's erased from the internet.
Yeah.
What was it?
It was a impolite reference to Ash Sunday.
Oh yeah.
But cheers to
Cheers.
that, I guess.
You haven't drank a bit of your water.
No, I haven't.
Take a sip.
I actually am fasting today. So.
Oh really?
Yeah.
All day long?
All day, baby. All day, every day. Not really. The first Sunday of every month, as a church, it's called Fast Sunday. Once a month. And on that day, you fast for 24 hours. And church meetings are different, but yeah.
That's interesting. I
didn't tell you, so it's not like offender or anything.
Well, I wish you would have told me because like I would have totally
Brought me an
fasted with
empty
you.
glass.
Yeah,
of
an empty
water.
one here.
Yeah, this is more appropriate. Fast Sunday. There we go. Cheers. No, anyway.
They're gonna come find you now. They're gonna see that. They're gonna see the picture that was taken, and they're gonna be like, "It was
It's
live."
been like the Secret Service of the church. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's
Who are the
thing.
Wizards, by the way?
The Wizards?
Yes.
Well, technically there are only 5. So
Do you think it would be like the gods, the gods that each denomination believes in?
I guess.
But like, there's only one god, and that's
Which is Gandalf the White.
yes, 100%.
Not Gandalf the Gray. Post Balrog fight, resurrection, Gandalf the White. Straight
Yes.
reference to Christ. Despite what Tolkien says, that was a straight Christ reference. He's like this isn't. There aren't supposed to be any religious parallels. I'm like, yeah, right. Like I read that 100%. Some savior comes in, resurrected, comes back. Might as well just call it C.S. Lewis, Aslan. It's the same thing. He can't hide. Christ is all up in that book.
That's interesting that you say that because I would argue that every story is like that.
Like anything with a heroic journey arc.
No, just any story has that death and rebirth.
Any story? All right.
Name one.
Green Eggs
Name
and Ham.
name a movie.
A movie.
I'm not a book reader. So
Green Eggs and Ham. I'm not familiar. What's
I'm not much of a Dr. Seuss fan.
yeah. This stuff's a little gauche for my taste.
Well, after, growing up 10 years and everybody being, Sam, do you like green eggs and ham? It just got really old.
Sam Ham's like, shut up.
Yes.
Yeah.
So by 11, when I could actually read that book, it's pretty difficult to read if you really actually look into it. It's difficult. So by 11, I was like, I'm not going to read that.
He's like, I'm out. Not going to read ever. And to this day, can't read.
Yep.
Illiterate. Yeah.
You had to tell them.
Yeah, that's the truth.
But
Liberty High School, public education at its finest.
what was it what was I saying?
You asked me to name a movie.
Yes, that
Okay.
you don't think resembles the Bible.
How about? I'm trying to think of a movie that actually no. I was gonna say, how about? What's the one with Bruce Willis that everyone loves? And it's a Christmas movie, Die Hard.
Die Hard?
Yeah, how about Die Hard?
I remember watching all 3 of them in one night whenever I was younger on TBS.
Mm-hmm.
Let me throw that one out there. And action. Oh, okay. You could name any action movie. So let me re-clarify.
Sure.
Any comedy.
Yeah.
Structured. Any comedy structured literature is I could compare it to the Bible.
Mm.
Which, if you didn't know this, Lord of the Rings is a comedy. There's a happy ending.
And there it is. Mic drop.
That's the sound of a mic drop.
Yeah, it's a Fell in a bubble.
Name another movie. Go for it.
Let's
I was supposed to ask you questions.
Oh yeah. Hit me with a really good one. This might be our last one. So we get a really good one.
Okay. What time are you got to get out of here?
Well, Silas is probably awake by now. My son.
He doesn't wake until 9.
He wakes up probably around 8, and so Mary hangs with him. But I need to be back-ish by 9.
Okay. Here, I'm gonna hit you with this, and I bet you anything you'll go overtime in answering it.
100% right.
Is this Oh, let me hit you with another question before that, and I want it on air so that like you can't dodge this question. Is this going to be like an actual? Is this going to be like a ritual? Is this something that we can do on a regular basis?
This is planned to be a ritual, yeah.
See, that's the Isaac voice I needed the whole time. We'll figure this out at some point if we're going to continue to do it, which you just said we're going to continue to do it.
Absolutely, on the record.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So, what is it going to be? Every other Sunday? Every Sunday?
Maybe we can start every other Sunday. So we don't run out of stuff to talk about. And then if we feel like we don't get enough out, then we can do every Sunday. But yeah, that's the plan on a regular basis, on the reg. Because the idea is, the best way to clarify your own values and your own beliefs is just to talk about them. And it always ends up being an uplifting experience, or it should be. At least how it is generally when you and I talk about this stuff. It's uplifting, right? And some people, if they want to tune in, and they want to, join in on the conversation and hopefully feel uplifted, that's the end goal. So, yeah.
Comment below.
Subscribe.
That'd be cool. So here's also something I should clarify. We're doing it on the My Testimony channel. Cool. Because I tried making a YouTube channel and live streaming, and they were like, yeah, you can't do that for another 24 hours. You had to, verify it, and then it was... So this is on My Testimony.
Honored to be on My Testimony.
But I think that
Good content.
Thank you. But I think that I will continue to do this on My Testimony.
Sure.
And if it rolls into something, then we can just make a new channel.
Love it.
Because I think it'll also drive people to watch your testimony, which is the same testimony as every single individual a part of the Church of Latter-day Saints. I grew up knowing Jesus.
It's true. Anyone raised in that church, anyway. Yeah, we really should be interesting to talk to someone who was just recently became a member of the church. Yeah.
Do you know anyone like that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
At the ward that my dad's the bishop of. Yeah, I'm all the time.
Okay.
Anyway, so was that your last question? Was that the one?
No. My last question would probably be, what do you hope to accomplish with this podcast?
What do I hope to accomplish? I'll tell you.
Or what do you think God's purpose is for this? Because clearly, if you're walking the straight and narrow, this is a part of His purpose for you to be here, sitting here with me, and these are a common truth. We're just piling it on today. Just piling it on. Is that this is a part of what we should be doing?
Well, for me, the biggest thing is kind of what I made brief reference to it earlier, but. One of the reasons why I deleted my social media, which hopefully down the road I'll be able to, download it again, use it for the right reasons. But there's just so much negativity and animosity and contention, politically and religiously, right? Just a lot of, and I felt bad because I remember a lot of my younger cousins and nieces and nephews are very much involved in those platforms, right? And I'm realizing that they are just getting
split.
Yeah, and they're getting hit with all the just negative content, like whether it's religious based, political based, just controversial issues, right? There's a lot of hate, a lot of anger, a lot of trolls, right?
Like Uncle Danny and Nephew Paul aren't any friends any longer.
Exactly. Just to bring that story full circle.
Yeah.
Boom.
Paul doesn't believe in this, Danny does, and whatever.
And so from this, ideally from these conversations we have, these Sunday morning chats, I just want to put good content out there in the universe, even if it no one ends up seeing it, or even just one person. Just the fact that it's out there, people will hopefully stumble upon it and they just see this positive, uplifting content talking about issues that are important, generally within the religious scope,
expansively too.
Yeah,
not just here's a paragraph.
Right. It just, you and I really just digging into our own thoughts about things And from that, ideally, all centered around the same thing that, you and I are two Christians who are kind of bouncing ideas off each other, but the end result is just an uplifting conversation.
I don't agree with that, and I agree with it at the same time.
You don't think
Just so that we can try to pull some more people in.
Yeah.
I've had too many people that anytime you bring it up to anybody is my buddy's a Mormon. Well, they're nice people, but
they ain't that nice.
Watch out. It's like, I don't like you either. Go away.
But yeah, that's what we get out of it. I think that's what's gonna happen because every time we have a child like this, that's what ends up happening. Happened today. I feel uplifted.
I think I do too, and I think that. But what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, heard somebody say this, and it's just been really digging into me. Was it's better for one person to read your book in 100 years than for 100 people to read your book today.
Probably true.
You follow me on that?
I guess it depends on what you want them to do. Like, do you want just a book to last forever, or? Yeah, because like for example,
I think everybody wants a book that lasts forever. I think they want a story that is going to be shared. They want to be that legend.
Yeah. Yeah, right. In the end,
but are they?
I think it depends. Like, who do you want to? How many people do you want to end up helping? Right.
Yeah.
So, to me, it's like whether I help 1 million people today. Ideally, I'd like to have that help last a long, long time. But see, I get that. I get the point. You'd be able to have one book read in 100 years from now. That means 100 years from now, people are still benefiting from your content. I agree. 100 years from now, this is gonna be in a museum somewhere. People like, and this was the best podcast.
This was
ever
the
made.
time of Isaac and Sam.
Yeah, became media giants and took over the world with their good vibes and positive attitudes.
Yeah.
Sounds like us. And
on that, is this where I tune back in?
Yeah, this is the tune out.
So I gotta go to the shoot. Film in on something else.
And don't forget.
Nice.
Like and subscribe. Just kidding. I actually don't care about that.
You sound like me. I always say that. Like and subscribe. Be a part of the whatever.
At the same time, don't care.
We'll send you emails.
It's like I'm gonna do this whether you like and subscribe or not. So that's not gonna change.
And I think that is why I do it. I think that I would do this anyways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think for our longest time, I've always been very prideful and always wanted my face to be seen. So it's really difficult if it's the heat.
Yeah, it's the heat.
Like what happens? 2019 in a world of Sam's mind. When growing up, his childhood was all about him. And then he said to himself, it's not all about me. But then God said, it's all about you. Now say something on the internet. It's like, hold up, God. I just went through this whole entire phase of like sacrificing and melting my face so that I can humble myself to new beginnings. And like, now you want me to jump back into the realm of being in front of a camera and stuff?
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
And here you are, doing it.
Yeah. Could be wrong, could be right.
Guess we'll see as episodes continue, as time goes on.
I'm trying to find my iTunes.
Don't forget to, I don't know. The end of this Sunday morning, we hope that you have a good Sunday, good rest of your Sunday.
There you go.
Yeah. And see you next time.